Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Laughing Place Watch and Chat. We're going to watch The Empire Strikes Back today. So, of course, we have Mike Celestino, editorial director for Star Wars content at Laughing Place. And Tony will be joining us a little bit later. He's covering another event for us, so we're going to have him catch up. So, this is super informal. We're just like chatting with a bunch of friends while we watch the movie. Nothing too crazy. Mike is a Star Wars expert, so I'm sure he'll point out some interesting things. And we will get started. So sync up Disney Plus, get it ready. We're going to do a countdown from 30. Once you get to 0, press play, and we'll get the show rolling. So, Mike, movie begins.
It sure does.
What do you think? So the opening of a Star Wars movie is so iconic, right? Because you have the crawl, you have, the long time ago, a galaxy far, far away. Does that always resonate me? Did that matter to you at all?
Yeah, I mean, every time I've seen one of these movies in the theater, like each one of those things gets applause. Like the Lucasfilm logo even gets applause.
Mm-hmm.
Although this version that they just showed was an updated version from what was originally on this film.
Because this is the special edition, right?
Yeah, in fact, it's like 2 or 3 levels of special edition in because the first special edition came out in '97 for the 20th anniversary of the original Star Wars, and then they changed them a bit again when they came out on DVD, and then I think again when they came out on Blu-ray. So we are several special editions
my ear
to the original trilogy.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, guys. Sorry I'm late.
No problem. We're about a minute and a half in.
Okay, I'm still on the crawl, so.
Okay, we're good to go.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to fast forward a little because I pressed start too late.
How was Mark Davis?
Mark Davis was fantastic. I'm a little bitter because, and not because P Doctor had to leave a little bit early during the Q&A. And the best question that I had the most interest in got asked after he left. And Chris Merritt, who was doing the seminar with him, basically said, "Ooh, that's a better question for Pete." And the question was, what effect do you think Walt Disney had on the golden age of animation by pulling all the good animators to WED?
Oh.
And I was like, that is a fantastic question. But even Chris Merritt goes, "Ooh, I wish Pete were still here."
That is a good question.
Right.
So, Mike, you covered something Star Wars related today. What's going on with the High Republic?
Yeah, they had a panel talking about the High Republic as part of this New York Comic Con Metaverse virtual convention thing, but it was like 20 minutes long.
Oh,
so
weird.
There wasn't a whole lot coming out of that. There were like little tidbits of information here and there, and then they announced like who was going to be writing the next few books after the first wave hits in January, but they're all authors that are already known to be working on other High Republic stuff. So they're just kind of like shuffling around. Like Daniel Jose Older, who's writing the IDW comic book now, is going to be writing like the middle grade book in the second wave of stuff and things like that. They're just mixing them up for the next one. But yeah, it wasn't long, and there wasn't a lot of news coming out of it.
Wow, I kind of figured they sort of could, because it's, it was supposed to come out already. I kind of figured this would be sort of the coming out party but I guess I'm wrong.
They dropped a few little interesting tidbits about the characters, and like the Wookiee has a wooden lightsaber. I mean, I guess that's interesting, but like at this point, I just want to learn this stuff when I read the books. I don't really need to know anymore. I don't know. I don't understand why people want to know all this stuff before the books come out.
Because because we cover it. um,
Well, I understand we cover it when they release the information. I just don't understand why they release the information.
so you weren't here yesterday, Mike, but we watched Coco, and Tony was able to sketch Miguel.
gosh.
So my question is Tony going to grace us with a sketch again today?
Are you asking me that or Mike that?
No, you. I'm not asking Mike to sketch.
I'm thinking if I fall behind or lose attention, I might start doing an AT or whatever.
Oh. Mike, so AT or AT?
I say AT. I thought I was saying the AT.
Either or both.
Okay.
Is the correct answer.
Okay.
They don't say either in the movie, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I gotta say, so at Disney we have several fan bases. We have the Disney fan base of various ilks. There's the Marvel fan base and the Star Wars fan base.
That was yesterday's.
Yes.
If you missed it.
Is there the Star Wars fan base is the most intense of all of them, right?
Most intense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because
I don't know. I've encountered some pretty intense Disney fans, though.
I know, but
It depends on like what though, I think. But I think Star Wars is the most like they'll correct you if you're wrong.
I watched the Dragon Con Star Wars trivia competition this year, and it made me go like, ugh. Like, I don't want to know that much stuff. Like, they were showing like pictures of all the different blasters and having people identify them. It was just like, I could tell you what Han Solo's blaster looks like, but
and this is coming from a Disney trivia champion.
Oh, from a Star Wars trivia champion.
Yeah. From the cruise line.
Yeah, this trivia contest that I watched was a little too intense for me. I do watch a different running Star Wars trivia competition that's much better as far as like the types of questions that get asked.
The fact that it can be a running competition is tells you all you need to know because they don't make all that many movies.
Right. I guess that's true.
So right now we're on Hoth, and they're looking for Luke. Is it Sky Killer, Sky Chaser, Skywalker?
Star
Killer.
Yeah.
So that guy, what scene are you guys on right now? Is it Han and Leia arguing in the hallway?
I have Han with C-3PO.
Okay, well, our official time code is 6 minutes and 10 seconds. So.
Okay, now I'm way ahead.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm backing up here. I was a minute ahead, so by now it's 6:30. All right.
There's a guy who's gonna pass through this hallway scene when Han and Leia are arguing here, carrying a box.
Yeah.
And in this new book coming out, The Empire Strikes Back from a Certain Point of View, there's an entire story written about that guy. So that's the kind of stuff coming from Lucasfilm Publishing. So,
Wow. It is kind of, I never noticed how like all these people are trying to get around Luke and Leia while they're having this argument. Like they're like, "Excuse me, pardon me."
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, not hot. You know what I mean. Here's C-3PO, human cyborg gradations. Although they never call themselves cyborgs, they're droids, but whatever.
Luke does call them robots in the original film.
Mm.
I call them Robits. Is that okay?
Robots, yeah.
Robits.
Ribbit.
That's Dr. Zoidberg.
There's also, I feel like there's a Mystery Science Theater 3000 where they did that too.
I don't get why covering C-3PO's mouth would stop him from... is the audio actually coming out of his mouth?
I'm at that spot too, and I was just thinking that. I'm like, does that do anything?
Fun fact, did you know that Anakin Skywalker built C-3PO?
I did know that.
I don't think we knew that for about 19 years at this point, though.
I know he built C-3PO, and I've seen how fast his pod can go. There's some great deleted scenes from The Empire Strikes Back on Disney Plus, which I didn't know. My friend David, who's a frequent guest on my podcast, pointed out that you could watch all these deleted scenes. We talked about them, but they had the whole like Wampa attack on the Rebel base, more stuff with the Tauntauns, and a whole bunch of stuff on Hoth.
Forgive the ignorance of this question. Are they like an option to pick, or are they already like edited in?
No, I mean you can. No, it's an option. You go to
Okay.
like extras in the menu.
Oh,
They're not
okay.
edited into the movie.
Okay.
They
That's how I
have it
sleep at
for
night, hanging upside down.
most of the Star Wars movies have deleted scenes available on Disney Plus. There's like Rise of Skywalker doesn't and Rogue One doesn't, but I think all the rest of them do. This is a new scene from.
Can I ask a question? And I don't mean to stir the pot if I do.
Sure.
So Rogue One's the one that notoriously has all the deleted scenes in the trailer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not on the Disney Plus add-on?
No, and they're not on the Blu-ray either. But that movie was mostly reshot, I think.
Yeah.
In reshoots, they pretty much shot, I think, like at least a third of the movie or more.
Wow. I think at that point you're making a different movie,
right?
And then the guy who did the reshoots, Tony Gilroy, or I think he's still the showrunner on the Cassian Andor Disney Plus series, although he's not directing it anymore. He said he didn't want to travel to London to shoot the show.
Oh, they're not doing it in the volume?
I guess not, which was surprising to me to hear, because if you've got that thing going, why not use it for everything?
This Wampa scene is not great.
Yeah, a lot of that was added in 97.
It's like that's a Siskel and Ebert review right there. This Wampa scene, it's not great.
It's like the slow motion hand falling off. Like it just seems like, I don't know, cheap.
Yeah.
So do you know what like when they made them, whose idea was Hoth and all that? Do you know anything about like the creation of Hoth?
Well, you should read the. I mean, there's these gigantic coffee table books about the making of the original trilogy by J.W. Rinsler, and they're fantastic. Highly, highly recommend these books. But you'd actually be shocked how much of everything in the original trilogy came directly out of George Lucas's head. Like, I didn't think that because I had been like disenchanted by George Lucas because of the prequel trilogy, but that man basically had like ideas like pouring out of his brain in the era of the original trilogy, and the screenwriters credited here basically just wrote like the dialogue and this,
it's kind of like a Disney animation movie. There's a screenwriter who's there to like write the literal script, but the plot and all that is done, through the story group.
Yeah, almost entire. And George Lucas was the story group. George Lucas was the Lucasfilm story group in that era. So yeah, Lucas pretty much came up with all this stuff.
That was one of my favorite things that they talked about in the Mark Davis thing I was watching a little bit ago, and I'll talk about it when I write something about it later. But it was that Mark Davis's big complaint with like Pete Docter and Chris Merritt was basically, you guys have too many meetings. Everybody's doing meetings. When would we actually make something?
That sounds like Mark Davis.
Yeah, too many teams all working on the same thing. When it's just one person. Here you go.
I always think that guy is the John Ratzenberger character, but I don't think he is. You can see him more clearly later in the movie, John Ratzenberger.
Now, he's in every Star Wars movie, right?
No, that's Alan Tudyk.
Oh, okay.
It is Anthony Daniels.
Right.
Is he the only one that's in all of them?
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
There's only one where he's not playing C-3PO.
Which one would that be?
Solo.
Okay.
Who do you play in Solo?
He's one of the Wookiees helping all the slaves escape from the mines of Kessel.
Oh. Luke on ice. So here's one thing I never understood. I always heard that Alec Guinness was like not a huge fan of being in Star Wars, but he comes back for all the movies.
Well, was he contracted? I don't know.
Or did they do like a Crispin Glover Back to the Future 2 thing? We already have his picture. Let's do it again.
Some clip of Alec Guinness on David Letterman from like 1986 has been making the rounds on Twitter. It's pretty interesting to watch him talk about Star Wars like after the trilogy had ended and stuff. He doesn't seem too bitter about it at that point.
So there's like this urban legend that this whole thing was designed to explain why Mark Hamill's
stop motion.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But do we know why they included it? It seems sort of unnecessary.
Why they
this whole like prologue scene? Because I don't know. I mean, I guess feel like I just don't get what the whole point story wise of, Luke going missing and Han going out to find him.
I mean, I think it's just to have kind of a little mini adventure before they set off on the main narrative, kind of like they do in Return of the Jedi with Jabba's palace. That would be my guess. Because like the inciting incident of this movie is really the Empire arriving and then setting them all off on their separate adventures.
Mm-hmm.
It's been such a long time since I even watched this one.
Mike sees it like every week.
I did see it very
It's a
recently.
Thursday, so let's put on Empire.
I actually don't watch the Star Wars movies terribly often, but I did see this one at the drive-in 40th anniversary screening like a month ago, and then it's also playing at the drive-in tonight, but we saw Tangled instead the other day.
Yeah, so I guess we didn't get a chance to talk about that. How was that experience?
I mean, it was great for us because we kind of got the VIP treatment being there as media. The only problem we had was waiting to get in. It took like an hour to get through the line, but they did like security screenings for everybody. They like walked the dogs down the line sniffing for explosives, I guess. And then they were doing this like drive-through photo op at this thing again, similar to what I experienced at the Freeform Halloween Road thing. And that was really holding up the line. And then they also gave out snacks, like a box of concessions and a goodie bag. I think everybody in attendance got both of those things. And the only thing we got for being VIPs was being like right up front. So we really got the best spot to park our car. And it was fun. They showed 3 shorts before the movie. The Maggie Playdate with Destiny short.
Okay.
A Mickey Mouse short and a Pixar Sparks short about a little girl who fights with her hair. I forget what that one's called. Is that one on Disney Plus already?
Yeah, it's a Spark short.
Yeah.
Which one is that? Do you know the title, Benji?
Is it Hair Jitsu, I think?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Hair
yeah,
Jitsu.
that's it. Yep, all right.
And then Mandy Moore and Zachary Levi had like pre-recorded a Zoom chat where they introduced the movie. It was like 5 minutes long. They're like reminiscing about making the movie. And then they showed the film.
Well, that movie's 10 years old.
It was the 10th anniversary screening, yeah.
That I don't like to have, but
Oh, and there's a deleted scene from this movie where they actually say the word "bacta," which I was surprised by because I always thought that was like a thing that only existed in the expanded universe for Star Wars, but it was actually written into the script, and I think Leia says the word "bacta" in a deleted scene around this part of the film.
So for those that might not know, Bacta is
the like weird gel that Luke is floating in to heal him.
okay.
And if you ever play a Star Wars video game, the way you usually heal yourself is with Bacta.
Ew.
Guess what? Leia was never meant to be Luke's sister.
But don't they tease it in this movie? There's
They
one
do,
more.
yes, they do tease that she is force sensitive at the very least at the end, but according to that J.W. Rinsler book, the plan at this point was to have Luke have a twin sister that was not Leia, that they would introduce in Return of the Jedi.
Hmm.
But then I guess by the time they got to that movie, he just wanted to simplify it.
Yeah, I heard John Williams had frustration because he wrote like the Luke and Leia love theme, and then he realized it wasn't really appropriate.
I want to know what that sounds like.
I always wondered like these things. They're in the queue for Rise of Resistance. These like glow up plexiglass things.
Yeah.
Well, those are for COVID.
Space COVID. I think they call them tactical boards. I was trying to figure out what they were called at some point because I was writing about. I think I was actually probably writing about the queue for Rise of the Resistance, and I think they're called tactical boards.
Hmm.
Must have had a self-destruct.
Have you played the Squadrons video game yet?
Yeah, I've played it probably about an hour and a half, which is not as much as I would have liked to by this point. But this weekend, I'll get into a little more.
How is it?
It's really fun and very. I would say it has a steep learning curve because I'm not good at it.
What platform is it on?
All of them, I think, but I have it on Xbox One. The cool thing about it is that you can actually like switch your power from the shields to the weapons to the engines. Like you're actually controlling what the ship is doing in that way, and it does complicate things, and there's a lot to remember. But I think it's pretty neat to have that kind of interactivity.
You just gave me a weird want to have like a Microsoft flight simulator that's Star Wars ships or like other kind of like
Right.
fictional ships.
It's pretty close to what that is, except it's mostly focused on the battle part of things.
This definitely this aesthetic is definitely in Rise of the Resistance. The overhanging command deck.
Yeah, well, I mean, they just took the First Order Star Destroyers are basically just Imperial Star Destroyers, but like more like Macintosh, minimalistic design. I don't like this shot. I never liked this shot. You can tell it's against a blue screen. These guys talking with the matte painting in the background.
What a mat.
I always loved these parts though with Han and Chewie fixing the Falcon and yelling at each other and stuff. It's just a lot of good world building there. It's very realistic. But that's my favorite thing about this movie is how realistic it feels. And to me, that's why it's the best one. It just feels you could step into this world and it would really exist.
So this one's your favorite, Mike?
Oh yeah, by far.
Do you have a favorite, Tony?
I used to like Return of the Jedi a lot growing up. I don't really have a reason. So I'll stick with that. But as a movie, now that I'm older, I appreciate Empire more.
Yeah, I feel like
it's just structured better.
Yeah, the one thing I like about Return of the Jedi, is the sort of final battle between not the Endor part, but the Emperor, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, like just the resolution of that. I think is pretty cool.
I think all that stuff is great in Jedi, and I think everything at Jabba's palace is great. The only stuff I really have a problem with in Jedi is on the moon of Endor with, I don't know, there's a lot of like goofy humor, and the Ewoks never really did it for me, I guess.
I have family members that when I say Return of the Jedi used to be my favorite, and probably I would still consider my favorite, they just go Ewoks and then leave the room.
So General Veers here is played by Walter Donovan from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He's also heavily featured in Game of Thrones as Grand Maester Pycelle. I'm blanking on the actor's name. Julian Glover, I think, is his name.
It's amazing how he can force choke through like a TV.
It's just that powerful, the dark side.
Is there? I don't know if it's the better quality now, but that looked like a pre-show video to me.
Yeah, like static from like the 80s that like they're trying to get reception.
So there's behind Leia. There is John Ratzenberger with the mustache. It just cut away from him. There he is.
Wow, there he is.
Lucasfilm's good luck charm.
He gets one line.
So are there any planets in the Star Wars universe that are more than one climate type on the planet? Like Tatooine's a desert,
Right.
Hoth is ice and glaciers.
Yeah, they are mostly like that, but there are some that are kind of muddled.
Okay.
Like Naboo has an ocean part and like a serene like
That weird Italian.
stuff.
Yeah. I remember that.
But I do really like that conceit that each planet is just one like biome, It doesn't make any sense from like a geological standpoint. It would never, I don't think it would ever be like that.
Because I remember somebody told me it's Crate in The Last Jedi, right?
Yes.
And they're like, that's a salt planet. I'm like, are they just out of ideas now? It's got salt. This
Salt.
one's a rainforest. This one's a desert. This one's a swamp. Salt.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things I heard when I was younger is that AT-ATs are inspired by the shipping cranes in Alameda in the Bay Area.
I've heard that too, and I've heard people from Lucasfilm say that that's not true, but then I've heard other people say it might be true, so who knows?
Who do you believe?
It's also like not necessarily something that might be documented, right? Like,
Right.
Like someone wants to create a walker and they're like, oh, I saw this like on the drive. Like they don't like,
Yeah.
like.
I was on my roof when I looked east, and there they were.
Not every story in the making of a movie is captured.
And then the Boba Fett's ship, the Slave One, is supposedly inspired by these lamp posts somewhere. Street lamps.
On Star Tours, what's your favorite destination?
The current one? Hoth.
Yeah. Okay. That's
I've
what
only
I'm
got
thinking
it.
of.
I only got that one like twice or maybe 3 times ever. I always get Naboo with the Gungans, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. Benji?
I don't know. Like, I just never thought about it.
We the first time, or not the first time, but like Hoth was like the really heavily marketed one. But for the first week or so, I never got Hoth. So So I would keep going, like, let's see what the hype's all about. Everybody keeps talking about Hoth. I kept getting Kashyyyk.
I get Kashyyyk a lot.
Yeah. But yeah,
I actually did really like the Rise of Skywalker ones that they added. I liked them more than the movie, where you go into the water on Kef Bir and you're like swimming around with the Dianoga and the Death Star wreckage and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool.
Is that at the beginning? Because I remember at the end there's a ton of ships that you're kind of with. I don't remember.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Those are two separate parts.
Yeah, the one with the last ship's the ending, right?
Yeah. And that's the one that they use on the banners outside now, at least here. I ask because how they're circling around and tying them up. It always makes me think of Star Tours because it falls down and you duck under it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's amazing film quality, but it doesn't do much for miniatures, does it?
No. It's funny how, like, I mean, this isn't just a Star Wars thing, but things explode really good in movies.
We were watching Independence Day not too long ago, which is also a Disney movie now. 20th Century Fox. And those ones don't hold up on 4K Ultra.
The explosions, though?
The fire effects, but like when you see the ships flying among them and everything, it's just, oh. Was Mike, you would probably know this. Was this Phil Tippett with these stop motion?
Yeah. In fact, he just did a nice talk with Industrial Light and Magic. They did there's the one shot of the ATST in this movie, by the way. ILM did like a 40th anniversary tribute to Empire where they talked about all the effects and stuff, and Phil Tippett was among the guys talking. But yeah, he I think animated the AT-ATs.
Yeah, there's definitely a mark of his on it. Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad thing. I don't mean to make it sound bad if I do, but because it was him and his firm that adapted what they call go motion instead of stop motion, because they were the ones who added the motion blur. But I feel like that makes it almost a little more obvious. So, and you could definitely see it here. I think it was not Jason and the Argonauts.
Is it the Sinbad? The
Harryhausen. Hold on, this is gonna bother me now. I know that there was the first one he used, and I'm pretty sure it was before this. Oh, that I didn't know. That's interesting. One of the ways he made the motion blur was petroleum jelly.
Nick would just like to say, watching football and not you. Keep up the work. If you're watching the score, it's Buccaneers 16, Bears 14.
Oh, wow. Actually, this might have been the first, based on what I'm reading. Yeah, created the go motion technique for some shots of the Tauntaun creatures and AT-AT walkers in The Empire Strikes Back. And then Jurassic Park put him out of a job.
How long did this movie take to film? I mean, there's so many shots in it.
You mean like production or post production?
No, I like production because like even things like with Luke hanging from the,
I don't remember, but I would guess like 4 months. Probably.
Tony's making noise.
Sorry.
Okay.
And now you mentioned he was in Last Crusade. He's the guy who chose poorly, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Because you didn't take my advice. Don't trust anyone, Dr. Jones.
I don't know. That's my favorite indie film, and I don't know why I can't remember his name right now.
I feel like Last Crusade's the first one I remember, and I fell in love with it, but I've seen it once. Whereas Raiders, I've seen 800 times. Because everyone shows Raiders. Like, there's always Raiders screenings. There's no Last Crusade screening.
Are there ever Temple of Doom or Crystal Skull screenings?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I feel like Last Crusade would get it more than those two.
Talk about like Sophie's choice when it comes to like how awesome my job can be sometimes, but I missed out on the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I think it was I guess it would have been 25th. I don't know. I can't do math right now, but the anniversary screening on the Disney Studio lot because I was at some other either Star Wars or Disneyland event or something. But I really wanted to see that on the big screen again. I hadn't seen it in the theater, I think, since college. So I do wish they would do that more often. You're right. But I love all three of those original Indiana Jones films. The fourth one, not so much.
So would you consider the fourth one a bad movie or a bad Indiana Jones movie? Do you understand the question?
Yes.
Did I make that clear? Okay.
I do understand the question. It's hard for me to detach myself from it as an Indiana Jones movie, but I would say probably both.
Okay. I think if you came out and said this is just like a 50s sci-fi B alien movie kind of thing.
Well,
all right.
That's what George Lucas wanted to do originally for Indiana Jones 4 before they compromised and made it half of that and half a traditional Indiana Jones movie with like temples and ancient artifacts and stuff. And I actually think it would have been more interesting if he had gotten his way and they just made like a 50s alien invasion movie with the Indiana Jones character at the center. Like, it would have been totally different from everything that we had known, but I think I probably would have enjoyed it more because it feels half-hearted to me in the way it came out.
I found out recently, I don't know how true this is. This goes back to the whole, not everything about making a movie is logged somewhere. The refrigerator scene was originally penned for Back to the Future because that was how they were going to get their 1.21 gigawatts was to go to a nuclear testing range. And Marty didn't get back in this car in time or something like that, or docked in it or something.
I remember that. I don't know where I heard that, but... And this is where Luke goes rogue.
30 years later. I got dressed up for the occasion. I pulled out my archival Star Wars weekend track jacket, which makes me feel more like an Italian Goomba than I meant to.
Star Wars weekends.
Yep.
How long ago were those? Like, I feel like they were 2 years ago, but that's probably not true.
No, I think, when was the last one? 2014, maybe?
Wow.
I was there in 2015, and it was happening, so that may have been the last.
That might have been the last one. I know there was one more event, so that might have been that one, but the hyperspace hoopla ended the year prior to the last one.
Because they did the fireworks instead.
Yeah, and I remember, and I'll never forget this because I thought it was such a backspin on like buzzwords and marketing and everything like that.
Zach has the answer for us.
Thank you, Zach. But no, because they ended the hyperspace hoopla and they said, and this is a year after Disney bought Star Wars, And they're like, due to the classic nature of these characters and the respect they deserve, we're not doing the hyperspace hoopla anymore.
Well, that's the
But
thing is like
for the last 7 years, it was okay.
But it's the same thing with Detours. They just like cancel that show.
I'm happy about that one though. But people point to Disney buying Star Wars as this turning point when Star Wars got like silly or something. And I'm like, look at all this stuff that was happening. I point them to like the Star Wars Xbox Connect game with that hilarious Han Solo dance mini game or whatever. And I'm just like, this is before Disney bought Lucasfilm. Like they were doing all this crazy stuff, and then afterward they really actually made it a little bit more serious. I think they took it a little more seriously.
I have the Star Wars Xbox 360 game for Connect, and now I really want to go whip that out to see if that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Because I think I just got through the tutorial, and it was like how to move your saber, and I'm like, all right, this is fine. Next game.
It's weird though how Lego is able to be completely ridiculous, and it's okay because it's Lego.
I think it's a little bit more detached and removed because the characters look so different in Lego form.
I also think YouTube kind of murdered hyperspace hoopla, because all the videos got posted out of context. So you have, here's Darth Vader and the Stormtrooper singing Michael Jackson Thriller, and nobody knows why.
One of the smaller asteroids is a potato.
So the funny thing about the hoopla to me was like it started off as like at the Jedi Training Academy stage, basically. And it was like, room for like 12 people. And then next thing you know, and it had a cast of 800 billion. And next thing you know, it's at the cat. It's got production value and pyro effects.
It's pyro. I remember the first year they did pyro and like everybody panicked because it threw over everybody's head. I remember that was back in my Main Street vehicle days. And because of my seniority level, I could only get those shifts on the weekends because somebody else had higher seniority than me. And luckily, it was Star Wars weekends, not Star Wars Wednesdays. So I would be off of Main Street by 2 p.m. and all right, I'm going to go catch hoopla.
That sounds exactly like something you would do.
Back before Star Wars was force fed down my throat and I got a distaste for it.
When does this actually takes place? Like how long ago?
How long ago from what point?
From today.
Oh, you mean how long ago? Or...
And how far away in cubits, please?
And then
unspecified is the answer to that question.
Like how funny would it be? I mean, this isn't funny, but like the aliens come and like they're actually like the Star Wars characters, but like 2,000 years later.
Right. There's a really funny. I always point out this story. It's not actually canon, but it was in a comic book called Star Wars Tales. That was a Dark Horse comic title where they did a bunch of like crazy experimental storytelling in Star Wars. And there was a story where the Millennium Falcon and Han Solo and Chewbacca like get lost in the galaxy and find their way to Earth and like crash land, and their ship ends up in South America somewhere, and like hundreds and hundreds of years later, Indiana Jones discovers the crashed Millennium Falcon with the skeletons of Han and Chewie in it. It's totally ridiculous, but that story always sticks out in my head.
And like and Indiana Jones is trying to figure out why like this skeleton looks like his.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he can tell that. This is the same skeleton that I have.
Hey, I know what my skeleton looks like. There are those who believe that life here began out there. Oh, wait, wrong space franchise. That's probably Battlestar Galactica reference. Which, yeah.
Or History Channel's Ancient Aliens.
I like my aliens like my park greeters. Ancient.
I was gonna say inept.
Oh, that's mean.
Sorry. Yes, ancient. Ancient. Do you have your AARP card? Yeah, you could put your finger on right here on this little thing.
I think if there's one set that I would have liked to visit in all of Star Wars, it's this Dagobah swamp set. I would have really liked to have seen in person how they did this, especially with all like the trenches they had to build for Frank Oz to operate the Yoda puppet and stuff. I think it's so cool.
That's cool. I wasn't even thinking about it like that. I was just thinking like, does he want to see all the fog? Because you could just go to like Halloween Horror Nights and get that experience. But I didn't. Now that you point that out, yeah, that would be really cool. Especially because if they did it like Muppet rules, where the performers aren't really allowed to see the Puppeteers, then that would be even cooler.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is all on a sound stage.
Do you know where? I'm guessing London.
It's at Elstree Studios in London.
I did always like the sets from the original ones, mostly because they weren't a green screen. But and that's one of the few things I like about Rise is because you walk through them. Even though I know it's the newer movies, but like we talked about earlier, it's so similar.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's what I always loved about these movies. It made this completely fictional universe feel very real just by having everything be real. It's all real. I mean, some of it is miniature, obviously. Some of it is paintings and stuff. That stuff looks less real, I guess. But
yeah,
for the most part, it's all really there, and all the characters are really interacting with each other, and it's believable because of that.
Have you seen the movie Fanboys?
Yes.
Okay. That's I think my favorite part of that movie. Hold on, sorry. Nothing yet, but maybe soon I'll start working on something.
Fanboys with Frozen star Kristen Bell.
Yeah, and the kid from Disney's Jungle to Jungle, all grown up. I always forget Kristen Bell's in that movie. That's funny, and Seth Rogen too. But at the end, when the character has that little moment where he's like, sometimes you just need the puppets. You need the realism. You don't have to live in a fake world. And he had already seen the movie. So, do you know what I'm talking about? I don't want to like spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it.
I don't remember. It was one time a long time ago that I saw that.
Yeah. But yeah, it got emotional at the end. And that's what you kind of reminded me. Like, it's all real. It's all real. It's not right. A computer image.
But you know what? I honestly, like, where we're coming around to, I feel like the way they made the prequels was in a way like necessary to get to where we are now with the stuff they're doing for The Mandalorian, which is largely what George Lucas wanted to do from the beginning, but the technology just wasn't there. But like now they've actually figured out a way to do it and make it look real, which is all that I really want, you know?
Yeah.
And there are still, I see CGI characters and I'm like, okay, that's a CGI character. So that to me isn't quite where I would like it to be.
I have something to say about this. I feel like The Mandalorian has made me respect the prequels in terms of the technology used, because I don't know that we would have gotten, like, it's so necessary for The Mandalorian that it was.
I think Benji's 45 seconds late.
No. I'm just like, I agree with but like, I really think like it makes me, it's not just so much that I get like, okay, but like, I really appreciate the legacy of them. Like, I mean, I know people, script wise, whatever, but I just remember it getting harassed all the time about these virtual sets and
in a way, the Star Wars prequels are experimental films, and they don't always work because of that. But in experimenting in that way, they did pave the way for stuff that does work. Yeah,
and I don't know that kind of like how The Mandalorian, I don't know that gets enough credit for what it did. I don't know that the prequels do, because they were so, it's funny because I remember like the criticism of them, like, oh, well, none of the sets were really there. Well, like most films now, the sets aren't really there, or at least, a fair chunk of it. But it was just because it was the first one to do it that way.
And I think Attack of the Clones is the first feature release shot entirely digitally, which every movie is shot entirely digitally now. So, yeah, George Lucas, again, in the late 90s, changed the movie industry with the Star Wars prequels.
Doobie just did a Jeremiah comment.
Hashtag Jeremiah comment. It's funny. The one thing that I don't like about the prequels is and maybe it's just because Yoda just likes messing with him here, but I feel like the Yoda of the prequels and this Yoda, obviously he's older, I get that, but like there's no fun in Yoda in the prequels, whereas here he's like a trickster, and he's hitting things with a stick. I mean, I think when he was in Last Jedi, he kind of played that role a little, like kind of bridged the two, where he kind of messed with them. But I don't know. I just feel like I don't know that Yoda would have changed this much because he was in exile.
Yeah, I always hate when people complain about something not being what they had imagined it being in their head, but I do it all the time with Yoda in the prequels, because for my entire life, I always imagined Yoda as this almost kind of a pacifist, and that he, in my mind, he always lived on Dagobah, and the Jedi would just go to him for training in the way that Luke did, and fighting with the lightsaber was like the last thing that I thought Yoda would ever do, based on how his character is portrayed here. I always thought, okay, he's more about using the Force with his mind and stuff. The lightsaber doesn't work for Yoda. But then when you have him like flipping around like Pikachu in Attack of the Clones, and I don't know, like you're saying, it doesn't gel with the Yoda that I knew growing up.
And that's where the Star Wars franchise, I think, and all franchises that have this much in it sometimes have consistency issues. I think Star Wars, because it was the first, has more than many. I think Marvel kind of learned their lesson, although they have their own consistency issues. But, I think part of the problem with the sequel trilogy is they didn't really know where it was going. Like, they didn't know what was happening in the last movie when they made the first one, which I think didn't make it work as an episodic trilogy.
Yeah.
Not that George Lucas knew what was happening in Return of the Jedi when he made Star Wars,
right.
Or at least, but
he was the same person who made all three movies. And I think with the sequel trilogy, it was the game of telephone, where you had a filmmaker write a movie and hand it off to somebody else. And I don't think that was the best plan for that.
Also, there was too many moments where it felt like the filmmaker, whether it's Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams, like makes up a plot device to fix something he didn't like about the previous film. Yeah. I mean, like
Kylo. They both did it. They both did it.
Kylo Ren's mask is like the most obvious.
I was gonna say, weren't they all guilty of that?
Yeah. So I mean, it's like okay, the first thing he does is takes off the mask in the second movie, and then the first thing they do is they fix the mask.
Yeah. And if there was a fourth one, he would have broken the mask again.
Right. Like, it just felt like it was so obvious what was happening there, because there's no real plot reason for any of that.
Right.
But kissy.
I love that. Love the Imperial officer fading out of the hologram when the Star Destroyer gets hit by the asteroid. Great joke. That's the kind of Star Wars humor I like, when it comes from real situations and it's not forced.
I never noticed that.
Love that moment.
So, because we talked about episode 1 a little bit, I do have an episode 1 question, or should I save it for an episode 1 watch along?
No, let's do it.
Yeah.
Is Jar Jar Binks a Sith?
No.
Okay. There's a lot of evidence mounting up. That's all I'm saying.
There's an entire episode of my podcast dedicated to crazy Star Wars theories, and that's one of the ones we talked about.
Is there really? I think I would actually be interested in that. I will check that one out later.
Does anyone else remember the Energizer Bunny commercial?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, that's not the original actor.
Was that before or after they were presenter of Star Tours?
I think it was the same time. But I have so many Palpatine questions.
What else are we going to talk about? Bring them up. What do we got?
Like, I mean, I know there was stuff that was sort of that's non-canon now, legend stuff, but like, I would love to know his origin story. And like, because he had like, if you take Rise of Skywalker at face value, he has plans upon plans upon plans.
Yeah.
And like, where does that kind of cut? If the Star Wars saga is the saga of Skywalker trying to restore balance, like I feel like we need this story of how the Force got disrupted to begin with.
Isn't his origin story kind of the prequel trilogy though?
But he's
Kind
already evil. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there was a novel in the expanded universe that's not canon anymore called Darth Plagueis, I think, that covered part of Palpatine's early life and his tutelage under Plagueis and how he killed him and stuff. But it's not canon, so yeah, they would have to do something like that again to fill in that backstory. But they'll get to it eventually, I'm sure, as they do
Well, I mean,
a lot of stuff.
I mean, if the guy carrying the crate can get a whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, it just to me, it's. I mean, after seeing the, we always think of Darth Vader as like the ultimate villain, but after the saga, it's Palpatine.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you just watch the first 6, it's Palpatine,
Yeah.
and so it just, we have Darth Vader's origin story. It just feels natural that at some point we would have his, because to me, villain origin stories are much more fascinating than like the hero's journey, because we've seen that 800 million times.
Sure.
So when you hear Miss Piggy,
I remember that being like 7 or 8 and making that connection. Make it like Grover is Yoda? Wait a minute. They sound alike. They sound very alike. And then like, yeah, Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear and Animal, they're all the same guy. Like that, how crazy that was to me.
Is Doobie watching? If you're watching, can you say in the comments, because I have a Yoda Doobie story.
Uh-oh.
You want him to give you permission to tell it or what?
No, I just think it would be more enjoyable for me if I knew he was going to get embarrassed by me telling it.
Okay.
Is it some Yoda joke it took him 18 years to get?
No. So he always thought Frank Oz was like Billy Barty, like Alf, like he was in the Yoda suit. So he thought Frank Oz was.
Wait a minute. Alf is also a puppet, by the way.
No, but like when Alf walks. Like,
yes, there are shots where Alf is a little person in a costume. Yes.
Yeah, and so he
usually chasing a cat.
He presumed Frank Oz was a little person, like Kenny Baker.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I don't know if he knew that Frank Oz was also a Muppet guy, because then that's really embarrassing. Jim Henson's not fitting in Kermit, but yeah.
Especially because on like older talk shows, they're sitting there next to the puppet they're holding. Right. They're not completely hidden.
There was a Disney fan club that I was working with once, and I got the Muppets to come, and it was funny because it was like, how much are we allowed to show? Because, I didn't know, like, obviously, like, Disney characters, like, character integrity is very important.
Yeah.
It's a little less strict about that kind of thing.
I remember going to an event called Muppet Fest probably 20 years ago now. It was in the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, and they had pretty much everybody who was a performer with the Muppets was on stage, and they brought out the puppets and stuff. It was I think Frank Oz did not show up for that, but it was such a cool event, and to get to see them all performing the characters like live in person was amazing. And
I
they've done it
regret,
at like Comic-Con and stuff since. I've seen that as well.
I regret not getting to go to the Muppets at the Hollywood Bowl.
I did that too.
I thought that was would have been really cool.
That was pretty fun.
Gibby was there, and Gibby heard my story.
I like how they have, from the beginning, they've had like the geography of the rooms laid out on the Millennium Falcon. Like when you go and visit the ship now at Galaxy's Edge, you know that you're standing in that room where C-3PO is when you're waiting to have your color called, and then you know the hallway that goes to the cockpit and the hallway that goes to this boarding ramp and stuff. Those little details are always something that I really appreciated about Star Wars as well.
I always wondered what was in the rest of the ship. Because it's like a fairly big
Engine.
Ship. Maybe.
I remember, and this is one of my future children stories that I will tell them one day about never judging a book by its cover. One of my roommates in college never, ever would have thought he was into Star Wars or Star Trek. Based on appearance, based on acting, and like how he acted, based on demeanor, everything like that. And he was studying industrial design. And on his desk, he had thick books of one was Star Trek and one was Star Wars, of all the different blueprints and like designs for the different ships in their universe. And I was like, why do you have this? He's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And he would show it to me. He's like, this is where the engine goes. And it's got like, it reminded me of Jurassic Park when they're looking at the conduit piping. Like he's like, you don't understand how to, yeah, I don't know how to read a schematic. And that's how he was talking and explaining this to me. And I'm just like, but I know what you did at that party last night. This isn't you. Like, what is this?
What did he do at the party?
That's a story from when we're not live.
Yeah, that was always a cool moment growing up, being like a nerd, being a pretty big nerd, like in high school when you'd meet like a jock who was also into Star Wars or something like that, and you have like this little thing in common, and he's like, oh yeah, Boba Fett or something like that. D23 Jim Henson Legend Award performance is cool.
Why are there so many? How many songs about rainbows are there?
At least one other one that I can think
Rainbow
of.
Connection, the Wizard of Oz one, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. The Skittles Jingle.
Is that a jingle somehow? It seems more like a phrase that they whisper.
Creepily at that. Taste the rainbow.
And I'd like to point out, like, I don't think any of those songs tell you what's on the other side of the rainbow. Why are there so many songs about rainbow and what's on the other side?
Well, that could be two questions. He could be asking, why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side? He's not necessarily saying that those songs are also about what's on the other side. Does that hold any water?
That song I get so confused about because it doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, it's all nonsense, but I love it.
Is the Muppet movie on Disney Plus?
I believe so.
Yes.
There's a watch along. I'll happily partake in that one too.
Me too.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it for the drive-in, so it doesn't fit our theme. That'd be a fast one though, because it's like 90 minutes.
Explain, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. But I know they're wrong. Wait and see.
I think we talked about this at trivia. What's the best Muppet song?
Oh, that's a great question because there's so many good ones.
Oh,
hard. You know what?
I bet a better question is, what's your favorite Muppet song?
Rebecca said that her favorite from the original film is the one that Gonzo sings.
That's my favorite.
Go back there someday. And
that's my favorite
I was going to say that's definitely my favorite from that movie. Is it my favorite overall Muppet song? I would have to think about it for a while. But it's definitely up there.
Mine might be Phenomena.
Not originally by the Muppets, a cover song.
Yeah. No, I think the Gonzo song really grew on me in college because I felt exactly that way. There's not a word yet for old friends who've just met. So
I think the lyrics to that song make slightly more sense than Rainbow Connection.
I agree.
And I feel like that song, like when you see it in a movie, I mean, it doesn't stop the movie short as a kid, but like that's a song that you appreciate a lot more as you get older. Like there's no way you can appreciate that as a 8-year-old.
Right.
Well, I'll stand by this, and I hope, Mike, you probably agree with me. I don't think the Muppets were ever really targeted for children until it's got the appeal, but it was never like, this is for children. That's what Sesame Street was.
Well, if you go back to like Sam and Friends, which was the show that Jim Henson made that predated the Muppets, that was like pretty definitively a children's show, but then they started doing Muppet stuff on like late night talk shows and things.
Yeah, they were big on SNL too.
Yeah, the Muppets. Well, they had like different characters on the SNL thing, but then I think the Muppet Show was kind of a blend of those two things. To me, it had the broad appeal of to kids and adults.
Wasn't one of the Muppet they did 2 pilots, and wasn't one called Muppet Sex and Violence?
Yep. It's on the DVD set.
Which DVD set?
Of the season 1.
I'm going to
go look through that later. I didn't know that. Okay.
Did they ever do the 3rd season? They announced that at the Expo, and then the Muppet Holding Company didn't become a thing anymore.
I have seasons 1 through 3. 4 and 5 have never been released.
Okay. Because there was Kermit, Miss Piggy, and Fonzie. Fonzie.
Hey, I'm a Muppet. Jukebox. I just want to see Fonzie in a mirror now.
I don't know if you guys know Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, but that has some of my favorite Muppet songs as well. I have the vinyl record, which my wife got me. It was like a record store day exclusive a few years ago, and I missed it, and she like got it off eBay for me because she's amazing. She can hear me talking in the other room, so I gotta be kind, you know.
They I think Muppet Christmas Carol is my favorite version of the Christmas Carol.
Oh yeah, that's terrific. It's a great movie. Although I do like the Disney one as well, the Mickey one.
I like Mickey, but like I feel like it's it's 30 minutes long, so
sure, it's quick.
My shadow, as we've collectively come to call her at Laughing Place, she never knew, because she's younger, never knew that Muppets were anything other than like retelling classic stories, like Muppet Treasure Island, Muppet Christmas Carol. They had the offshoot VHS tapes of like Muppet fairy tales or whatever. And then I was like, no, they're a thing. They don't just tell stories. They don't do adaptations.
Oh, it's the bounty hunter scene. We got to pause and talk about bounty hunters because I love them. I named my podcast after one of them. And this is the guy they're going to show right now, Bosk.
I thought your podcast was named after that Tony Danza show.
That too.
Okay.
There's Forlom and Zuckus. They're kind of partners. And then you got Boba Fett, IG-88, and Dengar rounds out all 6.
Is it true that like they just took out like parts from the cantina and kind of plopped it together?
If you go back and watch the original movie, in the Mos Eisley Cantina, you can see IG-88's head lining the bar a bunch of times.
She's 28, by the way.
And you are
36.
Was half plus 7? Right?
So when you were in 2nd grade, she was not born.
I don't want to know about that. We've collectively agreed we don't talk about that.
I mean, my wife is 7 years younger than me, so I think you're in good company.
Thanks, Mike. We were talking about 9/11 recently because September 11th happened, and it was, where were you? Where were you? Okay, we're done talking about this. I'll leave it at I was a senior in high school.
I was in college. I was working at Disneyland, and I had to call people to tell them not to come back to work. That was fun. Because they didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, you were waking them up, and you're like, hey.
Yep. Well, I was in Oregon at the time, so I was getting ready to go to school. And the DJs were laughing about it on the radio because they made it sound like a pilot accidentally smashed into the building. So
I bet they felt bad.
They did. That was. I wish I had like a tape deck recording of my boombox of their retraction.
Oh, gosh.
Box. Captain Nita, the ship no longer appears.
Are you watching with captions?
Yes.
So can I ask, how did you know that based on what he just said? Is the dialogue different than?
No,
I think
I
he knows
didn't
that.
think Benji has the movie memorized.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. Now we're there. Like I was just like, how did he? Okay.
I would have been surprised if Benji could recite this movie without the closed caption. Oh man! So I got this Black Series Dagobah Luke action figure that comes with the backpack and Yoda and stuff, and you can make him do the handstand, but it's impossible to get Yoda to balance on his foot at the same time. But that would be really cool if it could do that as well.
I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna offend Benji, and I'm sorry. Why does Yoda remind me of Sophia from the Golden Girls?
Why?
I don't know. It was a hypothetical question. I think it's the mannerisms.
No, I think it's like the old person who doesn't care what anyone said, like is willing to mess with you and is borderline senile but still wise.
Does Yoda serve Luke cheesecake in his little hut?
Did I never show? Do they? What does Yoda eat?
He's making like a soup or a stew or something that Luke eats.
No green milk.
No, the green milk's in The Last Jedi.
He must be so bored.
Who?
Yoda.
Sitting there.
Well, he can like watch whatever's happening out in the universe in his mind. So he just like tunes into people's living rooms and stuff.
Do you think he like follows like random people?
Yeah.
I'm picturing Yoda with a weird like cerebro that's borderline illegal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see what's in their
That's
living
pretty much
room.
what it is. But it doesn't
I
have
bet
to be a
like he found some family like the Kardashians or something. He just followed them and went, you won't believe what they did today.
Their dad was a lawyer. How'd this happen?
This is one of my favorite scenes in this movie.
I was going to say something about the do or do not. There is no try, and then judge me by size. Do you? Phrases I know more from T-shirts nowadays.
I can't. It's too big. I got on a T-shirt at Hollywood Studios. That didn't come out right. To be honest.
No, it doesn't.
I remember there was a whole list of like lines that could be misconstrued from Star Wars that are like double entendre.
Moving on.
Not LP appropriate.
Luminous beings, are we? Oh, Project Luminous. Now I get it.
Yep.
That's the all the books and stuff coming, right? Or have started coming?
Yeah, it turned out to be the High Republic, which is starting in January. And Yoda's going to be in that, too.
Yoda.
He's the one unifying, running character through all that stuff.
Since Mike C said it's impossible to balance Yoda on his Luke figure, I want to know how long he tried.
Well, it took me like 5 or 10 minutes to get him to do the handstand, but I tried a couple times to get Yoda to balance on top of his foot after getting the handstand. It's just not going to happen. I watched some other like reviews of those figures on YouTube, and nobody else could get it either. So I don't think it's possible.
And did we referencing Tony's comment? Yoda loves the lanai.
I'm just picturing Yoda like a sundress on a lanai now. Doing exactly what he's doing right here.
Picture it. Yeah. Dagobah. A long time ago.
Okay, I'm going to take a second. I feel too much like a Goomba in this track jacket. I'll be right back.
Like from Mario?
No, like an Italian mobster. I didn't say plumber who can fit down a pipe.
No, the Goombas are those little
Yeah,
mushroom guys.
they're the mushrooms, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That is why you fail. What else we got?
1 second. You can hear Tony talking to the shadow. Hello, Shadow. Apology accepted, Captain Nita. He says Captain Nita a lot more in this than I thought because I never heard the term Captain Nita before.
There's a great short story in that Star Wars Dark Legends book that's basically inspired by how terrifying it must be to be an Imperial officer serving under Darth Vader. I just thought it was so clever, that story.
Apparently, I have a better microphone than I thought I did.
They So in this movie, they show like Darth Vader with his helmet off, right?
Just the back of his head.
Yeah, the back of his head. So like, I don't know. I guess that required some foresight.
Just that he would be.
Well, that he'd be like damaged person because like I don't know if that was. I mean, they say more man than machine, but or more machine than man, but I don't know that we knew what was happening there.
Right.
I mean, once you know he's a father, he kind of plays out, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, he knew he was gonna reveal Vader as Luke's father. And I remember the whole like fight on a lava planet. That was in there for a very long time. I mean, that was part of like the lore. So that wasn't like a surprise when the Revenge of the Sith came out. Like everybody knew that Anakin and Obi-Wan had this duel on a lava planet. I think since I was a kid, I remember hearing about that.
Well, yeah, like I heard the term Mustafar long before.
I don't know if it was called Mustafar or how early that was introduced.
I mean, I don't know when that was, but I remember before the movie came out, I knew the term Mustafar.
Okay.
And not because, I saw the boy or something. Like,
well, that was Simba's dad that got killed in the stampede.
Did you intentionally do it that way? Did you intentionally make that joke?
Yes, I did.
James Earl Jones?
Because of what?
James Earl Jones?
Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't even put that. No, I didn't even make that connection. That's funny.
We call that a doobie moment.
No, only if I didn't understand it for 19 years. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's funny.
So do you remember that there used to be I'll get to your comment, but do you remember that there used to be a mime at Disneyland?
A mime?
A mime.
Like
like that.
Okay.
So the mime was named Lanyap, and I mean his real name was Mark Wenzel, right? And so we were like when he got let go, like he created this whole stink and posted online about how bitter fire guy, right? So Doobie one day he goes up to me and he says, "Is Lanyap still at Disneyland?" And I said, "No, don't you remember when he left?" And goes like, "Oh yeah, he didn't go quietly." And then we're like, he's a mime.
Where in the park would he perform?
New Orleans Square. He was like back when they had like a lot of entertainment there in the late 90s, early 2000s, probably mid 2000s. Can you explain to Doobie the Darth Vader in Dagobah scene?
So when he goes into the cave, Yoda tells Luke not to take his weapons, and Luke says, "What's in there?" And Yoda says, "Only what you take with you." So it's basically Luke's fears coming to life. The cave is inhabited by the dark side, and there were theories that the reason that Yoda moved to Dagobah to like hide from Darth Vader hunting him down or the Empire hunting him down is because the dark side presence on Dagobah because of the cave like clouded Yoda's presence.
So is that a normal thing where there's just caves filled with the dark side? That's kind of creepy.
Is it normal? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
oh, by the way, the Dark Side Cave also gets its own story in that book, the upcoming From the Certain Point of View book.
Have you read that?
No, I don't have it yet.
I don't know if you got it yet. I don't know.
Okay, send it to me if we got it, because I want to read that.
If I get it, I'm sure I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Because they also have that thing in what movie was it? I guess Last Jedi.
Yeah, similar idea when she goes down into the Dark Side Cave. Definitely like inspired by The Empire Strikes Back, as a lot of that movie was.
It sounded like you were saying The Last Judd, and I'm like, Winona or Naomi?
Ashley.
Very good.
Thank you. I know my dad.
So the other thing about that scene is, Luke cuts off Darth Vader's head and his helmet like explodes and it's Luke's face in there. So it's kind of him getting a Force premonition of his relationship to Darth Vader, and it foreshadows what we learn at the end of the movie.
I was watching a clip of Mark Hamill on the Graham Norton show in the UK, and apparently he George Lucas, and the director, whose name I completely forget of this one.
Irvin Kershner.
Yes, yeah. They were the only three who knew about it, and Harrison Ford got mad at Mark Hamill for not telling him.
So, funny story, Jim Mygon, who created like DuckTales and stuff, Disney had they did like audio like read-along books like for more than just Disney, and so they licensed out Star Wars, and so they would get the musical cues, and then they would have to like kind of set it up. And so when they did I think Empire Strikes Back, he goes, why is this track called Brother and Sister? And then
when 3 tracks was Luke and Leia's love theme,
right? Yeah, and they go like, oh no, and so they call it, and they're like, call it this instead.
Wouldn't it have been Jedi though? Because
maybe it was Jedi.
Yeah,
but
I think in the on set when they filmed the Darth Vader "I am your father" scene, he says Obi-Wan killed your father.
Yeah,
and they were actually shot the scene.
That's what he was saying in the interview.
Yeah.
No.
Less shocking, I guess. I mean, it is shocking, but not as cool, I guess.
There's Elliot from the Magic Kingdom.
What?
I don't
DJ Elliot, right there.
Oh.
Oh. I got you.
Lando adds something to this movie.
Oh, he's great. And when we saw this at the drive-in, I was like marveling at how perfectly cast Donald Glover is as young Billy D. Williams. They really do look like each other, and I was surprised by that because I didn't think that when he first got cast, but it's a pretty good likeness.
Yeah, it's in the eyes. There's something.
Yeah.
Who might you be? Old smoothies. So I have a question about C-3PO. Love him or hate him?
Oh, I love C-3PO.
I like him.
People seem to get.
I love him in this trilogy. I'll say.
I like R2 more, but I like him.
I think I'm more of a 3PO fan than an R2 fan, but I like both of them.
You know what's inspiring about C-3PO? That you can be an actor and basically do one role and milk that for the rest of your career.
And wear a gold suit jacket to every event. Just in case people forgot.
Right.
Yeah. I remember I was there at the Star Wars weekends, going back to the Goomba jacket, that he accidentally let slip about Star Tours.
Oh,
Did you remember that? Yeah,
No.
they did the little talk show panel, and they were like, "So Anthony, what are you working on? Any upcoming projects?" Like, "Oh yeah, we just got done recording the new dialogue for the Star Tours update." And
can I point
everybody's like,
something out real
"What?"
fast?
Yeah.
While we're on this scene, Luke is standing on a ladder that he uses to get up to the cockpit, and I have this weird obsession with this ladder because he climbs up, he gets in the cockpit, and then like it cuts to Yoda and Obi-Wan's ghost or whatever, and it cuts back to the cockpit, and the ladder's just gone. And I want to know like what happens to the ladder? How does the ladder go away? Is it stored somewhere in the X-wing when it's flying around? Where is that going when he takes off? That's it. That's my entire.
How many times have you seen this movie, Mike?
Back to Yoda's garage.
Right. Sorry, Tony. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no,
Continue
you're
with what
good. It's a watch along, not story time. No, but no. So yeah, he accidentally let slip and said, "I've been recording the lines for the new Star Tours update." And they're like, "Okay," and they started asking other people questions and everything like that. And then I went back to the next show, the next day, and they said, "Anthony, what are you working on?" "Oh, just some C-3PO stuff." They never said what.
What a terrible question to ask Anthony Daniels. Oh no, I got this like big new blockbuster movie I'm working on.
Yep.
No, he's doing more season stuff. What do you expect him to do? He's not in the next Avengers movie. It's like, John Ratzenberger, what are you working on?
Something with Pixar. A Cheers reunion for Zoom. Has that been done yet? Probably not.
Cheers is forgotten through time. Like, I don't know. There's something about that show that just, it was so popular, yet no one remembers it.
We've been watching Cheers. I love that show, but I think most everybody's still alive, right?
Not Coach.
Not Coach.
Yeah, Coach died after the second or third season, so yeah. But I think most of the remaining cast is still around.
George Went's still around. John's still around.
Yeah,
Ted
see,
Danson, obviously.
Ladder's just gone now. Where'd it go?
Maybe, like, I'm surprised there hasn't been a Mandalorian like scene that explains this, because that's the kind of thing they do. Like with the ice cream machine.
I love the lighting on this shot, how it changes as the X-wing flies away, and it comes back up and it's like orange.
The one thing I am glad is that the prequels explained that like not all Jedi people are Force ghosts. Like that's something you have to learn, because I was always wondering why they weren't just like ghosts everywhere. Like,
yeah. Well, I think it.
Cloud City always made me want the Jetsons to be real. Anyway, sorry.
I was confused by that for a long time too, but there is that moment in the original film where Obi-Wan and Vader are fighting, and Obi-Wan kind of goes like this, and he like disappears, and his like cloak falls on the ground. But then like Vader's like confused about what happened. He pokes the cloak with his foot or something. So they had to explain like why didn't Vader know about this ability? So they had it so that Qui-Gon was the first Jedi to like figure out how to do this. And Yoda learned at the end of Revenge of the Sith. I don't know. I always thought in my head this is something that Jedi have been doing for a long time, but I guess not.
It would just like lower the stakes for everything, because they're just a Force ghost. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's as good as being like a person, but you know.
Yeah.
It's also like I'm also confused as to like the amount of time they can be around, because like why isn't he just hanging out with Leia, like catching up, you know? Ugnaughts. I only know that with the Mandalorian. Let's play Keep Away.
Oh, yikes.
Yikes.
If you're ever doing a drawing, you don't want to mess up the eyes. I just messed up the eyes.
Guess it's not an AT-AT.
No, it's not an AT-AT.
Would you join me for a little refreshment? This scene upcoming, I just find so like just visually something, because when they open the door to the dining room or whatever, and there's everything's white, and then you just have Darth Vader like he's at Thanksgiving, and all black obviously, and it's just like so striking because you usually see him in like Imperial gray, I mean he's on the Star Destroyer,
right?
Most of the stuff, and to see him pop like that, I always like. If I saw this in theaters, I think it would have been like, whoa.
Almost like it was planned that way.
I'm sure it was. I just think it's successful.
Yes.
Also, like, I wonder what like did he actually plan on eating with these people, or
right? I think Robot Chicken did the what did they talk about during the dinner or whatever. I want to know, like, did Boba Fett say like, okay, I'm gonna go hide in this corner until they come in? So
didn't they do it too, where it's like, oh, is this your boyfriend? And like the dad being mean to the new boyfriend of Leia.
Right.
Also, didn't they do like the mock Norman Rockwell painting with that, like the Thanksgiving table one, and it's got Darth at the end of it with Boba Fett?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm gonna see if I can find it. Hold on.
Because it's not just because Darth Vader goes and like sits down again, like
yeah.
It's not like he's like it's just a ruse. Like, no, we're gonna, and like I presume Darth Vader doesn't eat, or I don't know how that works, but I don't know how that works. Do we know how Darth Vader eats or gets nutrition?
Well, they show him in Rogue One in that kind of regeneration pod tube thing. It's kind of similar to the back to tank, I guess, but I don't know if that's where he's getting his refueling or nutrition or whatever.
Okay, so this is definitely what I was thinking of, but it's not exactly the way I thought it was. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's weird. I looked up Darth Vader Thanksgiving Empire GIF, whatever, not GIF, JPEG. But what came up was people also searched for Star Wars Special Holiday Cast. Like that was the recommended based on that search.
Do you think B. Arthur hung out with Yoda because they're both on the Golden Girls?
I was just thinking. Maybe they're out in the lanai eating the cheesecake.
Are we gonna do a Star Wars holiday special watch along if it comes to Disney Plus? It's never gonna come to Disney Plus.
Is it gonna come to Disney Plus?
You know what we need to do a watch along of is the Mickey Mouse Club 70s Visit Disney World. That is something.
Just bringing that up fired the River Country song into my head, and now it will be there for the next 10 days.
River Country.
You should watch Ernest Goes to Splash Mountain.
I watched that 800 times as a kid.
Zip, zip.
Steel is getting worse all the time.
So, Mike, in your podcast about crazy fan theories, is one of them that these movies are about R2-D2 and not Anakin?
No, I don't think we covered that one.
Okay. I've liked that one too.
Who builds droids and who gives them their souls?
The Droid Depot at Batuu.
Oh,
Yeah, my wife is always saying that it seems like the droids are sentient, so it seems like they're always being mistreated and enslaved and stuff, you know, like L337 is right.
Am I the only person that can't tell the difference between most Stormtrooper armors?
Me neither. The only one I recognize is the one who smashes his head in A New Hope.
Ouch.
Probably my favorite movie blooper that ever made it like to a final cut.
Yeah. That was a common refrain from the pre-show of the Star Wars talk show at Star Wars
Yeah,
Weekend.
it was actually. Yeah.
You know, there's an entire documentary now about finding the guy who played the guy who hit his head on the door. I
Is
forget
there
what
really?
it's called. Yeah, it's relatively recent. I forget the title, but it has come out recently, or it is coming out soon. I don't remember. I haven't seen it yet.
I'd watch that. Like that's better to me than a novel about the guy with the box in the beginning of the movie.
It's not a whole novel. That's just a short story, to
Okay.
be fair.
I'm gonna find the guy who smashed his head. Coming up next.
We lost Benji again.
Bye, Benji.
Another great set. Another really cool looking, well lit scene in this movie.
Yeah.
The cinematography is so great in this movie.
I'll say I was saying earlier too, like I liked Return of the Jedi, but now, especially after college and everything like that, I definitely appreciate Empire as like the art behind the movie
Yeah,
as a film.
absolutely. Do you ever read about that theory about the colors blue and orange and how they go together on like movie posters and stuff?
Um, Not anything specific other than they
Yeah,
can.
there's some good like essays, think pieces about it on like some movie criticism websites and stuff about movie posters, and that carbon freezing chamber uses that same combination of blue and orange that's
Okay.
really appealing. But there's like hundreds and hundreds of movie posters that have their two like primary colors are blue and orange. For whatever reason, that combination works really is like really appealing to the eye.
The most recent thing I read about movie posters was actually about the Jurassic Park logo. How it's probably the most successful single piece of graphic art created for a movie poster
Yeah,
because of how many times it's been used and parodied and everything like that.
right. I have the Weird Al Yankovic album that has a parody of the Jurassic Park logo on the cover.
I was wearing one of my shirts earlier, but that would have been great. Right here, see, like this. I've got a dinosaur on right now, but this is another one of my inept Star Wars viewer questions. I remember this happens towards the end of the movie, but I feel like there's still a lot more that hasn't happened.
Well, there's a big like chase through
Yeah.
Cloud City after this, and then you have Luke and Vader fight, and that's basically the climax. And
Yeah.
then they fly away, and there's like a little denouement, and that's the end. It's like 25 or so minutes left.
What's your proper order to watch them for somebody who's never seen them before?
Well, I think either Matt Martin or Matt Martin or Pablo Hidalgo at Lucasfilm Story Group said that they think the released order is always the best way to watch anything.
Mhm.
And I kind of agree with that, but also I would say don't bother watching certain Star Wars movies at all. Um, but you know, I don't know. As I'm getting older, I'm like trying to be more accepting of the prequels and stuff into the Star Wars canon. So, I don't know. I would say you got to watch the original trilogy first, and then you go back and you get the backstory of Anakin and stuff. I don't think these movies work if you know all that stuff going into them.
I don't remember who did it, but somebody said 4, 5, 2, 3, 6.
Yeah, what is that? The machete order, I think it's called.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
It's basically don't even worry about episode 1.
Right.
But that way you still get the climax and reveal of this,
Right.
and then the prequels seem more like a flashback. So you can see the parallels in Return of the Jedi that Luke and Anakin have.
I just think that the tone of the prequels is so jarring compared to these movies. Like, it's so different. that I think watching them in between, it would, I don't know, it would make them stand out even more.
I remember I skipped school for episode 1 when I was in high school, and it was one of a few times I actually did. But I remember reading The Crawl, going, "What?"
The taxation
it's all about politics
routes.
and taxation. There's another one of your matte paintings.
Yeah. I think if I were quite a bit wealthier and had quite a bit more space, I would be one of those people who has the full-size replica of Han Solo frozen in carbonite hanging somewhere in their home. I think that would be pretty cool.
Full size?
Yeah. That's something you can get. I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's just, I don't know, one of my favorite props from any film, you know?
I'll bring it back to parks for a second too. In the Star Wars weekends parade they had, Chewbacca always had the C-3PO broken down as a backpack, and I was just like, "You're just saving labor at this point. You're not."
So yeah, speaking of that, there've been a few like themed Star Wars backpacks available for sale at Disney parks over the years, and the one that made the most sense is the one that makes it look like Yoda is riding on your back and you kind of zip it open, put stuff in it, and that's like perfect. It's great. But I always thought they should make another one that's like C-3PO in pieces. But I guess it would be more difficult to make it actually a functioning
especially
backpack.
If it's attached. I remember there was this was actually how I realized that Yoda didn't have like as far as I'm aware, a designated species name, because people would have a Chewbacca one, and I would say, "Oh, you have a Wookiee on your back," and then somebody
there is that Chewbacca backpack. I think that's what made me think of that, is because it's like that one doesn't quite make sense because Chewbacca's too big to ride on anybody's back.
Yeah, there's the Chewbacca one, so I said you have a Wookiee on your back, and then somebody walked by with a Yoda one. I was like, "You have a."
Yeah.
Hold on.
We still don't know Yoda's species, although I wouldn't be surprised if we learn it on The Mandalorian at some point.
Yeah. I feel like if anywhere, it would be there.
Yeah. Also, maybe High Republic, because Yoda's coming back in that. There's also Yaddle.
That's the female Yoda, right?
Yeah, she's on the Jedi Council. And so begins a very famous movie fight sequence.
So I gotta tell you, when I first saw Star Wars, the first one, I was so disappointed because all the things that I wanted to see were not in the movie. There was no Yoda. Luke never fights Darth Vader.
Right.
And it just felt like.
Then you must have loved Empire the first time you saw that.
Yeah, because like I'm like, oh, now we're actually getting into Star Wars. Because like, as a kid, I was all 3 movies had come out by the time I was paying attention, and I like the idea of like successive movies. Like I understood sequels. Like I remember asking someone like, how does Darth Vader come back after he dies in all the ends of every movie? Because I just presumed everyone died at the end, and so. I don't. It's just so weird to me that in the first movie, which at that point was just a movie, that the main hero never battles the main villain.
True.
And that, I mean, because that the Alec Guinness battle is, something.
Right. Well, I mean, they kind of go up against each other in the Death Star battle, flying their ships around. I mean, Vader's trying to shoot Luke down, although he gets taken out by Han, so that doesn't quite count either, I guess. I do really love how they worked in the mispronunciation of Han into Solo. Like that's something Lando's been doing since he first met him. I think that's pretty clever. Pretty clever. Like what's it call it? Retconning.
How does he say it? Han?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always, but the dialogue coaches in these movies were not consistent.
The weird thing is that Leia also says it like that, Han, in that scene, because I think she was acting opposite Billy D. Williams, who was saying it wrong, and just picked it up from that.
But like, at no point does someone say, "Actually, it's Han," or like it. Weird to me.
Yeah, C-3PO says it weird too, also in that scene.
See, even Chewbacca knew to duck when the thing was lifting up. That was probably the most dramatic stormtrooper I've seen.
He really milks that death.
Normally, it's just the shot with the Wilhelm scream.
That's a special edition shot right there, right? With the ghost one. Is that Slave One? Or the Slave One flying away?
Oh, I'm not sure. I missed it.
If it's not, it definitely looks CGI. Maybe.
I don't remember that being a special edition, but I could be wrong.
I could be full of it. Whoops. Did you ever notice that someone in all Phase 3 Marvel films loses their hand as a tribute to Empire Strikes Back?
Okay. Well, give me some examples. Thanks, Nick.
Well, Claw in
oh yeah. Black Panther.
I remember at the top. Bucky.
Oh yeah, okay.
Is it really as a tribute to Empire?
Yeah, it was like a thing. I don't know. Like I can't imagine. I'm confused as to when the director is like pitching the movie. Kevin Feige is like, okay, but we got to find a way that someone loses a hand. But
because in Empire,
right? I think it might be one of those things where it's like they did it in 3 movies and they're like, oh, like we should just keep it going and make it a thing. I mean, I hope that's not what the Marvel Studios team is like super focused on when it comes to storytelling.
I think Kevin Feige has come out and said that he was an even bigger fan of Star Wars growing up than he was Marvel.
Oh, Thanos loses a hand. Thank you, Mac. Yeah, I think that's well known, and I think that's why there was even rumors that like he would take on the Star Wars franchise once Kathy Kennedy decides to move on.
That would be a lot on his plate if he.
I was going to say that's a lot.
Marvel.
I think maybe in lieu of. I don't think it was meant to be in addition to.
They should swap for a while.
Like when Katie Couric hosted the Tonight Show and Jay Leno hosted the Today Show. I have to say,
Mike, I'm going to go back to your set comment because I was watching him go like through the tubes and the lights all kick on and everything like that. Yeah. That's all real and practical. That's all there. That's awesome.
So cool.
It's not like an animated movie, Tony.
Right, but it's also not a guy in front of a green screen, which we already talked about. So I'm not going to get into that again.
Jedi need to use more. Instead of like fighting with lightsabers, just throw stuff at them.
They did go back to that in the prequels in Attack of the Clones when they're fighting Count Dooku.
Worst villain name for the record.
Sure. Although his backstory novel / audio play is one of my favorite recent releases from the publishing side of things. He's got a pretty good. There's a special edition shot. All these people like wandering around Bespin, Cloud City.
The only reason I know that this place is called Bespin is because of the exit queue for Star Tours, where we would have the different planet names, like on posters, like travel posters.
Hey, the Camtono, Wilro Hood, and the ice cream maker.
Is that a band?
It's one of those culty type Star Wars references that everybody loves that I don't really get.
But they like in the Mandalorian. Like I didn't know about this thing until the Disney Gallery Mandalorian thing.
Right.
Made it canon. I mean, not it was already canon, I guess, but they like gave it a reason to exist.
Yeah, it's like a little safe that you put Beskar metal in, or I guess you could store other things in it probably.
There's definitely a lot of fog used in this movie too.
I guess like that was one of the things that was hard when they did Galaxy's Edge. They said was lasers don't move this slow. So like when you're doing blasters, you can't like use a real laser because it just doesn't go that slow.
Right.
In the movie or in the land?
In the land, like on the ride.
Yeah, I think they got it to go pretty good.
No, but like that's like they struggle to try and figure out how to make it work.
Oh, okay.
The laser would also be like one continuous beam instead of like one little bolt flying through the air.
I mean, I'm sure they just use projection, but like like they couldn't just use the obvious, what you would think would be the obvious solution. No porgs yet.
For how they did it, I thought it was a good idea.
I wanted to mention, since you brought up porgs, I love this little detail in Star Wars Squadrons because you can buy these little bobbleheads to be on your cockpit like dashboard, and one of them is a porg, but it doesn't call it a porg. It calls it like a mysterious bird creature that was found in like some ancient carving or something, because technically at that point in the timeline nobody has visited Octo or whatever in so long because it's like the abandoned early Jedi temple or whatever. I just really liked that they thought of that instead of just calling it a porg.
That would take some thought. Do they ever call them porgs in the movie? Is that just something we know from like merchandise or
I don't think they use the word porg in the movie, but they don't use the word Ewok in Return of the Jedi either, and everybody knows that.
Well, that's because of Caravan of Courage.
It could be, yes.
Here comes the most misquoted movie line in history.
Right.
Random question for the gents. A member of the LP team messaged me yesterday thanking me for saying Ben was over 40 yesterday. Which member was it? Well, it has to be Doobie because no one else is mean.
Also, I don't have Nick Morgan's
number.
Don't make me destroy you, Simba.
This is CNN. Isn't there a Simpsons thing where they do all of the different?
Yeah, with bleeding gums.
Yeah.
Right?
Avenge my death, Kimba. I mean Simba. A double dig at the Lion King.
I'm on the side that says Lion King's more Hamlet than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard. I mean, because then they say like, well, Simba is was taken from Kimba. Well, Simba just is Swahili for the lion. They're not that creative.
And Pumbaa's pig, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So if you go on Kilimanjaro Safaris, the exit says Katoka, go like for way out, or maybe it's Wildlife Express. So we would always say sing Hakuna Katoka, as in like no way out.
I thought Katoka was Ashley Eckstein.
Oh no, that's Ahsoka.
It's a joke. Come on.
He has foreseen this. It is your destiny. I feel like they missed an opportunity for a musical number called Father and Son right here.
No, it's Father and Son love theme.
You know what Luke should have talked about here just to piss off his father? Sand. And
Well, did he know that about him at the time? He just found out as his father. Like, what kind of personal details is he going to know about that?
No, but I would tell him, like, no, dude, you're going to meet your father. He hates sand. Also, stop kissing your sister. Ouch.
Bad. He's calling for you, Benji.
Who?
Luke.
Oh. Did my subtitles go away?
I've seen 4 Bens now, I think. Ben, please.
Oh, now I see. Okay, there we go. But you know, I would have Ben. I would have told him about the sand thing. Lobot or the Ugnaught? Who is creepier?
Again, I'm going to say casual viewer. Sorry. Ugnaught. Who's Ugnaught?
It's the guy you know him best from Mandalorian. He's like, this is the way, or I've spoken, right?
Oh, okay.
I've spoken. That guy.
Well, that's
That was somebody we already seen here. Okay.
Yeah, so Ugnaught's the species, and he's the one that they play keep away with C-3PO's head.
Those little pig monsters.
Mm.
Okay.
Sorry, that's probably an
Lobot looks.
to
I would say Lobot's creepier because he reminds me of certain cults from the 90s.
If we do get that rumored Donald Glover Lando Disney Plus series, I really hope Lobot is heavily featured.
I feel like
I heard if we do get that rumored Donald Glover Land, and I said, what?
Donald Glover Land featuring Atlanta.
It's a lot of Community, Atlanta and Solo.
After Dark, it becomes Childish Gambino.
This is America.
Oh wait, let's pick up that guy hanging from the bottom of this.
Wait, now that Atlanta is Disney, I guess Community is not Disney. I was gonna say, have all of Donald Glover's major projects been Disney at this point? No, Community is Sony.
That was me when I what I looked like when I came back from Islands of Adventure today because it was very hot.
You're at Iowa today?
I spent some time with the Mosleys.
You live a full life. You work all night, go to the parks in the morning.
That's a special edition shot of this.
I'd like to point
going into the docking bay, the hangar there. Go ahead.
I'd like to point out that you said you live a full life, and you first said by working all night.
What do you mean?
If I'm living a full life, I'm spending so much time working. All my lights just went out. Hold on.
I wonder what the reason that every time the ramp lowers, smoke comes out.
These ones aren't the fun
cool,
ones.
but is there like a functional reason, or is it like
atmosphere?
Yeah, did the Empire just go? No, it just looks cool.
Do you think everything has to have a function? There can't be a little bit of thought put into the design on the Empire's side.
These are the same
aesthetics.
These are the same people that keep building Death Stars that can be blown up.
That are exactly the same thing.
Right. Why?
And then the grandson did the same thing, but bigger.
Right.
That's the other great thing about this movie is that there's no Death Star. By the way.
Also, the citizens of the galaxy should, when they created the Death Star, they should really have figured out who the bad guys are.
Well, didn't it have a different name though at some point? I think it's called a battle station.
Stardust.
Yeah.
Is it? Was it? Was Project Stardust Galaxy's Edge's nickname?
That was
That
the
was their like reorganizing.
Oh yeah,
of
when
the
they were gonna
pathways.
expand the pathways. That's right.
Yeah,
I knew it was something involved with that.
but yes, it
Yeah.
was unnecessarily ominous because of the connotations from the film.
It's funny because we would never make a movie called The Empire Strikes Back today. Like we like we know. I don't think we really appreciate how hokey that title is.
I think like all of Star Wars titles, even to this day, are still kind of hokey.
But the Empire's like the Empire's at it again. Like,
I love this. The very fast dissolves between Luke and Vader. They kind of echoed that in The Last Jedi when Kylo Ren and Leia are sensing each other. More borrowed from this film for that one.
Hey, if I learned anything from the original Star Wars, to get out of the tractor beam, he just has to ease up on his main thruster.
good point.
That's one thing that's always not bothered me. Bothered me is the wrong thing to say, but it's like, so if it's that easy, why didn't they do that in the movie?
I love how this, like, when I go on a plane, it doesn't have weapons on it. But Star
That
Tours,
you're aware of.
good point.
That you're aware.
Like, oh no, there's a bird, shoot it. Like, that just doesn't happen.
Well,
I think
it's not the miracle on the Hudson if he shot the birds that got in his way.
No, I'm saying, like, does Star Tours really need advanced weaponry?
I think because it's flying through a war zone, which is basically the entire galaxy at that point. There's like a huge civil war going on, so they know they're going to need it. Or they think they may need it. I don't know.
I want
Do
to
I get
do
the
an
no
origin
prize?
story of Star Tours. Like, was there some entrepreneurial, like, guy someplace who? Because there's not a lot of commercial activity, like big corporation stuff in Star Tours.
They're just weekend vacations to Endor.
Or Alderaan voted the safest system in the galaxy.
I like that Lando has taken Han's clothes from wherever he keeps them on the Falcon.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Why is that droid's mouthpiece like a Sonic drive-in microphone?
Also, did it bother anyone when this movie came out that it's a cliffhanger? Now we see them all back. You know, we know what it is, but like, I can't think of another cliffhanger movie like this before.
Back to the Future 2. Oh, before. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good question. Other than like the serials of the 30s and 40s, like
Right, which is invoking, but like, you know, I mean, I can imagine people spent their $1.50 or whatever go to see a movie and they feel like they didn't get an ending.
it's a commercial for the next one.
All right.
Like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. That's all that movie was.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Ugh. All the best scenes of the trailer are at the end of this movie. Come see the sixth one.
6, wow.
Did you just sound exhausted when you're watching the second, technically fifth out of 9?
No, I'm just talking about the Jurassic Park that there's been that many.
Oh, well, as far as we know, hope there might be more. Who knows?
I'm trying to come up with a feature film that has a cliffhanger ending before the Empire.
Before Empire, yeah.
Is there maybe a horror movie that would qualify?
When I know, like there was like when they did Infinity War and Endgame, like they had lots of conversations about like making sure it had an ending. You know, even though it's depressing, like they didn't want it to be like stay tuned. Obviously, we all knew, but like I mean, you could debate the success of that, but
well,
they kind of didn't want
success is that Endgame is the highest grossing movie of all time.
Well, I meant storytelling, narratively.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because we all knew it was coming, so it's kind of silly to be
but
like.
I would call the end of Infinity War a cliffhanger. I don't think you would watch that movie and feel satisfied that that's a completed story.
Well, I think this is silly because we all knew they were coming back, right? So, but they wanted it to feel like no, they're gone, but we knew they were all coming back. I love Infinity War. I love Endgame. I must say, I question some of their, marketing tactics on that one. So, anyway, yes, I want to be wrong.
I was going to say, what other franchises were before Star Wars? For the record, that was as far as I got.
Oh, I
was trying. I stopped.
I can't tell who it is, so that's something.
Hey, thanks, Mike.
Fozzie Bear.
No, it was actually I was using a picture of Estelle Getty, and just went for it.
Well, thanks so much, Tony, Mike, and we'll be back tomorrow with Hocus Pocus. At least Tony and I will be, and join us tomorrow because Mike, you got more Star Wars tomorrow, right? On from Metaverse.
Yeah, there's 2 panels bright and early tomorrow morning.
So our next live stream will be 6:30 Pacific, which is Jeremiah at Animal Kingdom. So I'm going to go to bed. And everyone have a great night. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.